I told my dad my mom was sleeping with my boyfriend and she blamed me. My mom wasn't just a bad parent, she became my competition. I was 18 in love with my boyfriend, until I caught my own mother sleeping with him. I thought telling my dad would finally expose the truth. Instead, she told everyone that I destroyed her life, and her marriage. You've destroyed this family. My mom's words, sharp as shattered glass, cut through the dead, suffocating silence of the living room. But she wasn't looking at my dad, the man whose world had just been detonated, the man she'd just been caught cheating on. She was looking right at me. Her eyes, which I had only ever known to be full of warmth and laughter, were now filled with a kind of venom I'd never seen before. It was a look that single-handedly erased 20 years of love and replaced it with a pure, undiluted hatred that chilled me to the bone. Just moments before, I had finally told my dad that I caught my mom, my best friend, sleeping with my boyfriend. And in that one horrifying moment of her accusation, I realized I didn't just expose her sordid secret. I had willingly painted a target on my own back. I had become the enemy. I had lit the match that blew up my entire family, and as the smoke cleared, it seemed I was the only one who got burned. Before the explosion, before the lies and the wreckage, our family looked like something straight out of a feel-good holiday movie, the kind you watch to feel warm inside. My dad was our rock, this quiet, steady, unwavering force who absolutely adored my mom. He wasn't a man of grand pronouncements or flashy gestures, but his love was in every small thing he did. The way he'd make her coffee every morning exactly how she liked it. The way his eyes would follow her when she entered a room, even after 2 decades of marriage, you'd think she was the only person in the world. And my mom, she was the opposite. She was vibrant, a brilliant spark, the undeniable life of every party, and for most of my life my absolute best friend. She was the person I went to for everything. Advice on boys, help with homework, a shoulder to cry on. I was her mini-me, a title I wore with pride. Our house was always filled with the sound of laughter, or at least I had curated my memories to believe it was. We were supposed to be a fortress, impenetrable and safe. When I started dating Leo, it felt like the final perfect puzzle piece of my perfect life clicking flawlessly into place. It wasn't just a high school crush. It felt epic, real. He was charming, intelligent, funny, and possessed a kindness that seemed to radiate from him. It didn't take long for my parents to fall for him too. He wasn't just a guest, he became part of the fabric of our home. He'd come over for Sunday dinners, sitting for hours at the table long after the food was gone. He'd help my dad in the garage, patiently holding a flashlight or learning how to change the oil, listening intently as my dad shared stories from his youth. He and my mom got especially close, developing a bond that, at the time, made my heart swell. She'd joke that he was the son she never had, and they developed this quick, witty rapport full of inside jokes and shared glances that just made me happy. It all felt so right, so complete. Looking back, I guess I never saw a lot of overt passion between my parents. There were no stolen kisses in the kitchen or romantic getaways. But I chalked it up to long-term comfort, the natural progression of love. I figured that after 20 years, the fiery blaze of early romance inevitably cools to warm, steady embers of friendship and companionship. I saw their easy, platonic dynamic as a sign of an unbreakable, mature marriage, not a symptom of a massive, gaping void just waiting for something or someone to fill it. I can't believe how naive I was, how willfully blind I chose to be. The day my world imploded started with the mundane rhythm of any other Tuesday. I was supposed to be at a late-night study session for my final exams, but it got cancelled at the last minute. I remember feeling a small sense of relief, looking forward to getting home and crawling into bed early. My dad was away on a 2-day business trip, so I knew the house would be quiet. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed all the lights were off. I just figured my mom had turned in early. I unlocked the front door, slipping inside and tiptoeing across the hardwood floor of the foyer, trying not to wake her. The silence of the house was deep, almost hollow. As I started up the stairs, a faint sound reached my ears. A low murmur. I paused, my hand on the banister, telling myself it was just the television. But as I got closer to their master bedroom at the end of the hall, the sounds became more distinct. It wasn't a TV. It was voices. A man's voice, low and indistinct, and then a soft, breathy laugh that made my stomach lurch and drop. It was my mom's laugh. But the other voice, a deep whisper that was as familiar to me as my own heartbeat, belonged to Leo. My blood ran cold. No, it couldn't be. My mind scrambled, desperately trying to construct any other possible explanation. Maybe he just stopped by to drop something off for me? Maybe he was helping her with a leaky faucet? But it was almost midnight. The excuses felt flimsy, pathetic even in my own head. I crept closer, my socked feet silent on the runner. The bedroom door was ajar, just a sliver, and through it the words became clearer, laced with an intimacy that was sickening. They weren't just talking. I stood there, frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding a frantic, deafening rhythm against my ribs, so loud I was sure they could hear it. I couldn't bring myself to look, to push the door open and see the truth with my own eyes. But I didn't have to. I heard my mother whisper his name, a sound of pure pleasure, followed by a soft moan that made me want to double over and throw up. It felt like the floor had just vanished from beneath my feet. I backed away slowly, my hand clamped hard over my mouth to stifle the sob that was clawing its way up my throat. I stumbled back to my room in a complete and total daze, a ghost in my own home. The sounds from their room, from my mother's and my boyfriend's room, played on a torturous loop in my head, each echo a fresh stab of betrayal. This wasn't my life. This wasn't my mother, my confidant, my best friend. And that wasn't my boyfriend, the boy I thought I loved, the boy I trusted with my whole heart. In the span of a few seconds, every single thing I believed about my family, my relationship, and myself was not just broken but utterly obliterated. The two people I trusted most in the entire world were betraying me, and my dad, in the most monstrous way imaginable. The next few days were a living nightmare. I felt like a ghost in my own house, a spectator to a life that no longer felt like mine, haunted by what I knew. Every single interaction, every word, every glance felt like it was coated in a thick layer of poison. When my mom would smile and ask how my day was, her voice, once a source of comfort, now sounded like a grating lie. When Leo would text me, "I love you," the words would burn my eyes, a cruel joke that made my blood boil. I was drowning in an awful, swirling vortex of white-hot anger, suffocating anxiety, and a sadness so deep I could feel it in my bones. The secret was no longer just a thought. It became a physical thing, a heavy, jagged rock sitting on my chest that made it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to exist. I started avoiding them both, making any excuse I could to stay out late or just lock myself in my room with a bowl of cereal, claiming I had too much homework. The paranoia was eating me alive. I'd see them in the kitchen together, just smiling at each other as one of them reached for the coffee pot, and my mind would spin out into a dark abyss. Was that a secret signal? A shared memory from the other night? Were they laughing about me, about how clueless I was? I started obsessively replaying every single interaction we'd all had for months, searching for the signs I must have missed. The way his eyes would linger on her for just a second too long when she wasn't looking. The playful way she would touch his arm when she was making a point. The inside jokes that suddenly felt loaded, exclusive. I felt like such an idiot for not seeing it, for being so profoundly blind. My trust in my own judgment was completely gone. How could I ever trust myself again when I had missed something so monumental happening right under my nose? I finally worked up the courage to confront Leo about a week later. I couldn't stand it anymore. I cornered him after school, my heart hammering against my ribs. I just asked him, point blank, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Is there something going on between you and my mom?" He laughed. He actually let out a short, nervous laugh, avoiding my eyes. He told me I was being crazy, that I was stressed from exams and imagining things. He said my mom was just like a second mother to him. The lie was so shameless, so insulting in its simplicity, I couldn't even form a response. I just stood there staring at him. He wouldn't even give me the basic human respect of a confession. He was going to stand there and gaslight me, make me believe I was losing my mind. That's when I knew. The chilling certainty washed over me. I couldn't carry this alone anymore. The weight was crushing me. My dad, my kind, trusting, oblivious dad, deserved to know the truth. He was being played for a fool by the two people closest to him, and by staying silent I was an accomplice. Telling my dad was the single hardest thing I have ever had to do. He had just gotten home from his trip, still in his work clothes, looking tired but so calm, so happy to be home. I found him in the living room reading the mail. My voice was a trembling whisper when I said, "Dad, I need to tell you something." I watched his easy smile slowly disappear as the horrible, ugly words just tumbled out of my mouth in a messy, tearful rush. I told him what I heard, what I knew. At first he just denied it. It was pure, unadulterated disbelief. He shook his head, a confused frown on his face. "No, honey, you must have been mistaken. You were tired. You misheard. There's just no way." But as I stood my ground, repeating the details, forcing him to listen, his confusion curdled into this terrifying, quiet rage. He went completely pale, his face slack with shock, and for a horrible second I thought he was going to be sick right there on the rug. It was like watching a building crumble in slow motion, the foundation giving way before the whole structure collapses into dust. That's when my mom walked in, a bright smile on her face, probably drawn by the sound of our voices. "There are my favorite people," she started to say, but the words died in her throat. The second she saw the look of utter devastation on my dad's face and my own tear-streaked cheeks, she knew. Her own face paled. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice strained, already playing dumb. My dad just stared at her, his eyes cold and empty. His voice was low and dangerous. a tone I had never heard from him in my entire life. Is it true? The next hour was a chaotic blur of screaming, desperate crying, and vicious accusations. My mom tried to deny it, but her lies were weak and fell apart under my dad's cold questioning. Then she tried to downplay it, calling it a stupid, meaningless mistake, and a moment of weakness. She begged my dad, swore it meant nothing, that she loved him. But the trust was gone. It had been incinerated. And then, right in the middle of it all, when her excuses and pleas were doing nothing to soften my father's stone-faced fury, she turned on me. "You did this," she screamed, her whole body shaking as she pointed a trembling finger at me. "You couldn't just keep your mouth shut. You couldn't just leave it alone. You had to go and destroy this family. You've ruined my life." I was stunned. Just completely, utterly floored. I had expected her to be angry, maybe disappointed in me for telling. But I never ever in a million years expected her to make me the one to blame. I was the daughter she betrayed with the boy she knew I loved, and now I was the villain in her story? In that moment it was brutally clear. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was just sorry she got caught. In her twisted mind, the affair wasn't the problem. The problem was that I had told the truth. For the next 24 hours, the house felt like a war zone after the bombs have dropped. There was no more shouting, just a thick, unbearable silence. My dad moved through the house with a chilling quiet, his face like a mask carved from stone. I heard drawers opening and closing upstairs. A zipper being pulled. Without another word to either of us, he packed a bag and left. The sound of the front door clicking shut was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. The silence he left behind was deafening, heavy with everything that had been destroyed. The only sound was my mom sobbing in her room, a sound that brought me no comfort, only a hollow ache. I just locked myself in my room, feeling completely and utterly alone in the universe. I'd lost my mom, my boyfriend, and now my dad, all in one cataclysmic implosion. The family I loved was gone, and I felt this deep, sticky sense of shame, as if what they did was somehow a stain on me, a reflection of my own failure. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Leo. "I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. Please, can we talk?" I stared at the words, a fresh wave of nausea washing over me. I deleted it instantly without a second thought. A few hours later, a call from my mom. The screen lit up with her picture. I watched it ring and ring, my thumb hovering over the answer button before letting it go to voicemail. I still haven't listened to it. I'm not sure I ever will. I just felt numb, like I was watching a really sad movie about someone else's tragic life. The family I knew was a lie, a carefully constructed stage play, and I was the one who ripped back the curtain and exposed the actors. My mom's words, "You destroyed this family," kept playing over and over in my head on a relentless loop. And a horrible, insidious part of me, the part that was exhausted and heartbroken, actually wondered if she was right. Would it have been better to live in the lie than to be left with all this wreckage? So here we are a few months later, wading through the debris. My parents are in the middle of a messy, painful divorce. My dad is staying with his sister 2 states away, and our conversations are stilted and sad. I barely talk to my mom. The few times we have spoken, she still insists, with a chilling lack of self-awareness, that telling my dad was a cruel and vengeful thing to do. She believes I did it to hurt her and that I single-handedly ruined everything. She still hasn't apologized to me. He just blames me. I broke up with Leo, obviously, and I'm still trying to get my head around the profound betrayal from the two of them. This whole thing has completely wrecked my fundamental understanding of what love, trust, and family are supposed to be. I've learned that betrayal of this magnitude doesn't just break your heart. It shatters your entire reality. It poisons your memories and makes you second-guess everything you thought was true. I've started seeing a therapist to help me sort through the tangled mess of anger, grief, and misplaced guilt. It's a long, arduous process, but I'm slowly, painfully, learning to accept that their choices are not my fault. She had an affair. He participated. That's what destroyed our family, not me saying the words out loud. My only crime was speaking the truth in a house built on lies. But even with that knowledge, I'm still left wondering if I did the right thing. I look at the shattered pieces of my family, and I can't help but ask myself, would ignorance have been better than this emptiness? So I have to ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you have told your dad? Or would you have kept the secret to try and hold your family together, even if you knew it was a complete and utter lie? Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button, share and like, then comment what time and location you're watching from.